In this video, I'm going to walk through how to use Desmos to find um, the following, the mean, the median, the mode. We're actually going to talk about a way we could use Desmos to do that for us, the 5-number summary, and the standard deviation. So we're going to do all of that in Desmos. We're also going to have Desmos create a box plot, but then in my next video, I will go about showing how to do one by hand. Just so that you can have sort of both at your disposal. But this video is going to focus on what we need the computer for, and then the rest really we can be done without the computer. If you're using Calculator Soup, I'm going to talk about how to use that particular calculator for the other set of data. All right, so I have Desmos open. You can see it right here on this screen. I also have my spreadsheet open. Remember, we're on the 118th Congress, and we were asked to do number of terms. So I want to just pick my number of terms data. So I'm going to highlight that. And remember, with Desmos, sometimes it can be a little wonky if I select words, so I try to not. And then I Control C. So key, I hit Control C right there. You can't see it because obviously my keyboard doesn't show up. And then I go back to Desmos. Now, you may want to be careful. You know, if you don't have a home key on your keyboard, you might want to type a letter in first. I'm going to call this T for terms. So T, this is set T equals. And then the key with pasting into Desmos is you have to hit Control V if you're on a PC or Command V. But you have to use the paste shortcut. If you copied your data correctly, it should all show up in one row and be surrounded by brackets like I have right here. And I like to sometimes hit my home key just to make sure everything looks good. Some people, you might get a little nervous, like, did I include all the numbers? Did I get all my numbers? There are 437 in this data set. And you can have it count. So notice if I do count T, it tells me there are 437 in there. Okay, good. I have all my numbers. I always like to double check that I have all my numbers. I get a little nervous with that sometimes. Okay, so we were asked to find the mean, the median, the mode, the 5-number summary, and the standard deviation. We're not necessarily going to go in order. We're actually going to do the mean and the 5-number summary first. So mean, you can get to it through the functions menu. And under the statistics, it's right there, mean. You can also just type it in. And then you have to use your letter here. So, go back, home. You got to use the same letter you called your data set. So we're going to call it T there. So we're asking it to find the mean of T. And then it tells us it's about 5.14. And that's fine. You can just use that number. There's no reason why you need to include all the digits. We're going to round to the nearest 100th spot, and that's okay. All right, next up, we're actually going to do the 5-number summary. Now, the 5-number summary isn't called the 5-number summary here. It's called stats, S-T-A-T-S. And then I'll put in T. And I like doing this one next because notice it gives me the min, quartile 1, but it gives me the median. The median is one of my 5 numbers in the 5-number summary. Quartile 3 is 7 and max is 22. If I ask for the 5-number summary, it's good to list out what each of the parts equals. If you also just list the 5 numbers, that's okay also. All right, so we have our mean, we have our 5-number summary, we have our median, and then we were asked to come up with the mode and our standard deviation. Well, we're going to do the standard deviation first because there's a button for that. So if we go here, statistics, you'll notice there's 2 that sort of say standard deviation. One is a sample standard deviation and the other is a population standard deviation. For our class, we're just going to use the sample standard deviation. And we get a number. So most data points are within 4.34 units of the mean. All right, so we have all this. Now, Desmos, unfortunately, will not find a mode. I can't type mode and get it to pop out a value. But there is a workaround. You're like, ooh, I like workarounds. So if I scroll down and I go to my visualizations, I'm going to create a dot plot because what a dot plot does is it shows you how many values fit in each group. So like if I make a dot plot and I say I want T and I just make the bin width 1, what this line chart here, or what this chart is showing me, it's actually a bunch of dots. you can't really see because we're zoomed out so much. But it's like these are the number of representatives that have served 9 terms. There are 15 of them. There are 24 who have served 7 terms. And so we can go out here and I can look, and there are 77 representatives who are in their first term in office. So 1 is very clearly my mode. It's the highest of all of these. And so that's a really quick way to figure out what my mode is. I'm looking, I'm going, oh, there's 77, there's my mode. Or not 77, there's 77 data points. 1 is my mode. So we got our mode. So last but not least now, mode, standard deviation, 5-number summary. How do we make, I'm like, what is my questions? How do we make this box plot using Desmos? We're going to do it similar to this one. So I'm going to shut off the dot plot because I don't want that anymore. And this time I'm going to go to the visualization menu again, but I don't want a dot plot. I want a box plot. So I'm going to take box plot and I'm going to put T because that's the data set. I want to include my outliers. So I'm going to say include. And you're welcome to mess with the offset height. It just makes your boxes taller or it makes it a little above the x-axis. But we want to zoom fit. We want to hit that little magnifying glass. And so then we get a nice, pretty little box going on here. And, you know, if I were to include this in a homework or a project, you know, I would want to make sure I label this number line with number of terms and also give my graph a title. So like number of terms of U.S. representatives, something like that, you know, tells me about the data. So even though this isn't a data display like a bar graph or a histogram, it's still a data display. I still need to say what type of data is being shown in it. I like the box plot when I'm trying to do a quick check of my data because it makes it somewhat obvious if the data is skewed or not. And I can back that up with the mean and the median. So that's part of why on these describing data ones, we make box plots first and then sort of describe the data after that. Hopefully this video gives you a sense of how to do some of these calculations in Desmos. In the next video, I'm going to go through and use calculator soup. So if that's your calculator of choice, tune in. I will also be making another video that walks through the interpretation side of things.